episode in Arcade and Oh My WAWD. It's another episode with my co-host, Jason Patrick. What's up, Jason?
Hey, man. What's going on?
Well, what's going on is we're doing another podcast, and this time, what are we talking about tonight?
Yeah, so we're doing another topic episode. I thought of the bright idea of doing an episode about regrets. Not trying to get that dark, but just talk about like some of our regrets in life and kind of get into that.
For sure.
The people to know more, know us more, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think, and I want to say this because full transparency with everybody, I was very hesitant about this because I was like, damn, this is gonna hit some. Not only, I mean, you're well aware, obviously, of your own dark spots and regrets, and but I was like, damn, I don't know if I'm ready to talk about my regrets because there's a lot of them, and they're, you know, when you get to our age, you start to think a lot about your past. But really quick, we do want to mention that we're now completely on iTunes, Spotify, and also Stitcher. I don't know what Stitcher is, but we're on Stitcher.
Supposedly it's a big thing. I don't know.
Yeah, so if you're on Stitcher, if you're a big fan of podcasts, and you probably know what Stitcher is, we're on Stitcher now. But yeah, on Apple, you'll be able to find us a lot easier too. You can listen to us there. And if you do, please make sure to rate us, review us, whatever. I don't know. It would be awesome if you reviewed us, said you hated us.
Yeah,
the
review would really help, so we'd appreciate it.
It'd be awesome to get something like that. I don't think we ever got any reviews on the last podcast, right? Forgot the game, got to listen.
I don't know. Maybe.
Is it still
I
up?
don't remember. I'm sure I coaxed friends into doing it.
Do they get erased? Like, because it's been years since we touched that.
I'm not sure. I guess we could always look up the feed and see if.
All right. Well, that's for another time discussion. But yeah, so we decided to go through. I think you had set up our three biggest regrets, right? What are our three biggest regrets to start off with? And I think, I wanted to make the parallels to also films because I think there's a lot there. I mean, that's why we relate to a lot of films because they go through the same kind of situations and ordeals that we do. Yeah. So I have a few, but I wanted you to start it off. We'll see how it goes. So, see how dark you get before I have to close.
I mean, I probably won't go through all of them right now, but like, yeah, as I was doing research for this episode earlier today and kind of writing notes for stuff I wanted to touch on, I'm like, this could be endless. Yeah, this could be endless. I have so many regrets. But so yeah, I guess I'll start off with kind of a lighter one, which would be not taking baseball more seriously, like when I was younger.
Like you yourself as a player, or just?
Yeah. When I was younger, I played at a park, like Loyola Park, that my brother worked at, and so I really got into baseball. And I still love baseball, and I was a pretty decent pitcher. I started off being like a good hitter and stuff, but then I didn't practice enough, so that kind of went by the wayside. But I was always a really good pitcher. I always had really good aim. But it's something that I never. Like I played, I guess, when I was probably like from 9 years old to like 12 years old. And a part of that kind of so like we there was like a program that they were putting together where they created like an all-star team within the league. And so you would go and visit other parks in the city and play teams, like all-star teams that play at that park. Mm-hmm. I know there was one time, because I only recall us ever playing one game, so I guess it never really came together. But we played this one game. We went to Horner Park in Chicago, and just like the level of play between our park and like this other park. I mean, it's not like we definitely lost the game, but I definitely saw like, hey, there's levels to this, and I'm not. We're clearly not on the same level. So like,
right. Well, how old were you guys?
It was called the Rookie League, so that was like 9 to 12 years old, because they had like the T-ball league and then the Rookie League and then a teen league. But yeah, so like after that kind of discouraged me, and then once I got to high school, I do recall in my first and second year of high school, I had joined a team and like started practicing, but I eventually just kind of gave up and never, like whenever I'm not sure if all high schools are like this, but there's usually a long period where you're practicing before the
You
league
actually get
starts,
into
I guess.
games, yeah.
You know, like schedule starts, you start
Yeah.
playing, and I never made it out of that phase of
You
actually
were never
playing
in it
games,
long enough to actually play a game.
to actually play games. So I just kind of gave it up.
Why do you think that was? Like, why did you decide to like give it up at the time, especially when you were just training? Like, there was nothing there to discourage you other than you're
I
just
don't know.
practicing.
I mean, I really disliked high school, which is
Yeah,
weird. Like I really loved grade school, but when I got to high school, I feel like I became more of a loner. Like I didn't have as many friends, so like the idea of staying after school
yeah,
wasn't something I wanted to do. So
totally.
I kind of just
I feel like we can relate to that in a
hmm
way because I think I was the same way because I had just moved out of Chicago proper into the
yeah.
suburbs right
Okay.
outside, and I think for some reason I think it was my parents' bright idea for me to join a sport. I had never been in sports.
hmm
I think maybe I was in a little league when I was a kid, but I was not that great. I was horrible at baseball.
hmm
I could barely remember it, but then I went and I joined the football team because I thought, oh, it'd be so cool to be like for me, like again, because this is how much movies influence my life. I would see like Rudy and all those other films, and I'm like, oh, I want to be a football player. Not ever playing football ever before that, and joining the team, and not to overtake your story, but since
Mm-mm.
we're on the subject of this,
Not at all.
because even though it's not on my list of regrets, I do regret not staying into some kind of sport. But I remember practicing like during that period of when you're just kind of practicing and trying out. They make
hmm
you buy all this shit already. It doesn't matter if you're ever going to play, but you kind of paid for the jersey. I bought the cleats,
Especially for
but
football, right? All the equipment that's required for
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. And I remember the first time when we were actually practicing with all the gear. You know, I was way out of shape, first of all, and they want you to run your ass off, which is crazy. But on top of
hmm
that, I had this weird thing where I don't even know if I just had like an allergic reaction to it, but when I had the helmet on, it made my head itch so bad. Like it would just like, not only that, because it was like this, it was like sweaty, right? So I would just
Yeah.
I would take it off, and my coach would be like, "Who told you to take off the helmet? Put your helmet back on." I'm like, "Oh, okay," but I was like, "Oh," like it's so. I felt so bad. Like it was so bad that I didn't quit because I just didn't think I could do football. I quit because that fucking thing was itching me so bad, and I can't do this. So then I said, you know what? I told him like I'm gonna go play soccer instead,
Yeah.
which was probably more terrible because it's more running. And then I had to go through the embarrassing thing of getting my parents to actually take the cleats back to get them returned, even after they were used. The
hmm
Sports Authority in
hmm
Ford City, and then
Nice.
have them like return them and get soccer cleats. And that was a whole different thing too. So, and I was in one year for the freshman year I was in soccer, then again in junior year, and then I just never stayed with it again. I
hmm
was way out of shape, but I was like that. I was the same way. I didn't have any friends, and I just like I made friends on the team, but even then there was like I was on junior varsity always. I think I only got
Okay.
to play once in varsity in one varsity game, which was great. And I was like, yeah, I did it. Felt like a movie, like yeah.
I was
But yeah,
always really terrible at soccer. I mean, I'm Puerto Rican and Irish. I think the Irish are not bad, but for some reason Puerto Ricans are not really good at soccer. They're really good at
yeah, I don't know.
baseball. But
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, which is weird because you have all these other countries that are like like I don't know what I'm talking about. I guess they're not really
I
near
mean,
each other, but just like these
yeah,
tropical places that like soccer or football, seem to be a thing, and
yeah. I
it's
would
just
say not
not.
to go off on a tangent, but it's kind of weird, right? Because it's like all these like you said, like South American
Yeah.
Southern or South American countries are very popular with baseball, but not Mexico.
hmm
It's more like the soccer is like the number one thing pastime.
Yeah.
I mean, it might have obviously I think it has a lot to do with government and just the occupation of a lot of the countries during that time when they brought over baseball. But anyway, that's getting off topic. To keep it light on the
uh
same subject of high school, I'll say one of my bigger regrets, and it's not to be I don't know what would you call it, but I do regret because we were just talking about how no friends. I had just moved into the area. I didn't know anybody, but I regret like not chasing girls in
Okay.
high school. Like I didn't date anybody. I actually kind of coasted through high school with barely any friends. Didn't date anybody. Didn't really talk to any of the girls. So part of the reason why I used to go by my nickname used to be Ghost because I was like no one ever saw me there. Like no one even knew I was there. I
Okay.
didn't make a peep. Like I went from being the class clown in grade school back in Chicago, like on, in Brighton Park on the
Yeah.
south side, moving to the suburbs where I just kind of shut down, like I just kind of closed up
Hmm.
because I came into a school district where everyone there went to school together in grade school and went to the same high school. So everyone already
Okay.
had their groups of friends. So it's just like me coming in as an outsider. But even then, there was plenty of other outsider students that came in who didn't know anybody, who became fast friends and very popular. I was not popular at all.
Hmm.
So I do regret that because there was a lot of ladies. Well, I said ladies now because they're older, but I know they were giving me the eye, but I never made the attempt. And I feel like I definitely was a late bloomer in terms of
Uh-huh.
like dating and just sexual exploration, all that stuff until way after, which I mean, I don't know, I'm not complaining now because I've made up for lost time, but it's one of those things where like I missed out on that kind of high school experience.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess I didn't put it on my list, but yeah, high school was definitely. I just didn't like the high school I went to, but I always fantasize about having a high school experience that you like see in the
Yeah,
movies with all the
totally. Yeah,
different cliques
exactly.
and whatnot, and
Hmm.
it wasn't that for me. And I don't know. Yeah, I just became more of a loner. I think that's partially due to the internet. Like I
Yeah,
would just come home and like go on chat rooms, or
that's
play video
true.
games. Like
I
that
think
that was my.
that was exactly around that time when all that started up. So it's like, why do I need anything else?
Yeah.
I'm chatting with people across the world, or I'm looking up porn.
I remember there was
It's
this one moment in high school, like where just like a little side tangent. I think I got in trouble for some reason that day, and so they sent me like to. It's like there was this place outside the office where you had to sit down, and two other people I guess had gotten into trouble that day, and there was this one girl who was just eyeing me. I'm like, oh, she's super into me, so like she gave me her number, and I just recall like for some reason just not really showing much interest. Like I recall being at home one day and playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and she
Mhm.
called me on the phone, but I was like paying more attention to the game
You were playing while
as,
she was on the phone with
while
you?
we were talking on the phone. Like paid
Hmm.
more attention to the video game, and then eventually she just lost interest because I wasn't showing any.
Yeah, you
But
were
yeah.
returning. Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'll move on to my second one, which is a big one. I mean, so this is with the baseball one, because like some of these that I'm going to be listing today, like these are things that could be fixed, I guess,
Right.
or
You're
things that
not.
you could still pursue, and this is one of them. I kind of gave up on filmmaking. So like when I was a teenager, I had a group of friends in a neighborhood, and we would make movies, usually parodies of stuff or like
Mhm.
stupid slasher films, or like found footage films because I was so big into Blair Witch Project at the time. And we would make all these like a bunch of movies and we would show them to people in the neighborhood. So I just kind of like became that guy who loves
Cool.
movies. And I guess that never
Hmm.
changed. Like I still, that's a lot of what my social media is about, like how much I love movies or like the movies I see or whatnot. But
Yeah.
eventually, like something happened. Like, I was kind of a bit of a hooligan when I was around that age, like 15 or 16 years old, where we would go around neighborhoods like breaking stuff.
Yeah.
And just there was this one, I'll try to make this story short, but there was this one day where there was this house that got burned, but it was still standing. And so we just kind of hung out there all day and we're like breaking windows and stuff.
I
Uh,
love that. Yeah.
and the neighbors next to this house like freaked out. So eventually they like called the cops on us. And it was just like we were gonna leave, but then my friend Chris convinced us not to leave because he lost his house keys, and eventually ended up with me and my bud Doug like going to the neighborhood Blockbuster Video and hiding there. But but then the police just came in there. The reason why I'm telling this long story, so like we had the camera on us because we were filming during all of this,
That's awesome.
and
Hmm.
they took the camera. It was so funny because we're like,
The police took the camera.
well, we left it behind the counter at Blockbuster because whenever you walk into Blockbuster, you usually have to give them your bag or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, back when those were then. And so like we're like leaving out, and Doug's like, "Hey, you forgot your camera." It's like, no, don't fucking mention the camera. They're gonna, obviously. So they took us to the precinct, or whatever, and eventually, and they probably didn't even have a right to do so. but they like looked through the footage on the camera,
Yeah.
and so they saw all this footage of us like breaking people's windows, and it was terrifying because like a fucking this big cop, like this
Yeah,
big
it's like
fat
proof.
Hispanic
Yeah.
cop, like got in my face, like yelling at me, saying, "No, you like fucking breaking people's windows," and it was terrifying. Point is, like, that was a long story, but point is, they confiscated my camera.
Again.
What happened?
I was like, they scared you so much you never made movies again.
Well, no, they took my camera, and then the guy's like, the cop was like, "Don't tell your parents about this." I don't know why he said this. So like a few days later, I went back with this paper, like, because I guess they put it into evidence or something.
Yeah.
But I went back and to get my camera, and the cop, the guy that was nice to me, he came and he's like, "No, you have to bring your parents, and then we'll give it to you." So I was not going to do that, so I just threw out the paper and never got my camera back. And that's like, I think that's like when, not my passion for it, but I'm not going to blame it on that, but it was a big thing just to lose my camera. And
well, I feel like there's always other stuff. There's larger factors, right? I think when we're young, we always have like these passions for things. Like it's like the typical, like, I wanted to, like, for me, like I always wanted to play guitar. My dad used to play guitar. He used to play bass in a band, and I said I wanted to play that because I grew up learning or listening to a lot of his favorite music. Like a lot of his favorite music is my favorite music now from the past. So it's like I want to learn guitar. So of course you go through that whole thing where like they buy the guitar, they'll take. I mean, I never got lessons, but I had the books, and then they're like, okay, here it is, learn, and then you never really learn, right? Because you're like, no, this is too much work. I mean, in that case, it takes a lot of work, right? And I'm not saying that filmmaking doesn't take work, but obviously doing all this stuff, it's a lot.
Well, it's a super hard industry to crack into, right? So
yeah, of course.
And like as I got older, I'm like, and this is more like personal things of like self-doubt, but it's like, oh, what do I have to offer the filmmaking industry? Like, what ideas or stories do I want to tell? And I never thought I had anything to say.
Yeah,
but that's not. It was just an excuse, really.
Yeah. I feel the same way in regards to like comic books. Like I always wanted to be a comic book artist. And like I think I tried really hard because when you grow up, you kind of trace and you do a lot of the stuff and you copy the styles and say like, oh, I want to be a comic book artist. I mean, in part that's why I became an artist. But I feel like I got discouraged when I was like, people would say like, you're not going to be good enough, or like you need to draw more. And I was just talking to somebody about this. It's more, comic books are more than just action shots, like fightings and all that stuff. Like everyone's like, pow, like that, like you have to draw like the regular stuff where you're just kind of like sitting down and they're just talking and you have to make that look good. I couldn't draw that. That was my fault. Like if you practice it, you could do it. But I just was like, nah, I just want to draw action poses. Like for me, I was like, I just want to do the covers because everyone sees the cover. But yeah, I think it's just a thing where everyone just kind of falls into that thing where it's like, do I want to continue doing this or do I just, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just life gets in the way, you end up doing stuff. I don't know. I was doing the same stuff too. Like in high school, we would make films, like short films for class, but then we would just like, I was very much into it. And even now, like I tell people, because I used to make like narrative stuff, but it's like, it's so hard to do because finding people who are interested in enough to be a part of it, it's like, which is why I kind of do photography more than anything, because it doesn't really take a lot of people to do it. Like if I just go up to somebody like, can I take your picture? Or if I talk to a friend like, can I take your picture? Let's go take some pictures versus, hey, I need you to learn these lines. I wrote this story, and you have to be really into it. I need a passion. Like I remember making a short film with my brother. And I would have preferred if I was the lead in it, but it's like, but I'm the visionary behind it, right? Like I know the shots. I mean,
No, which is funny.
I want it to look like this, and there's no way you could ever tell somebody else this is exactly how you want to film it. And I don't know if I ever showed it to you, but I'll show you the video.
No, you haven't.
And for the most part, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. But one thing that always irked me is that after all, and I put my brother through a lot. Like I made him run through like the hill, like the forest preserves. I made him run a lot. Because we made like a horror spoof. Horror films are always fun to make. Yeah. But I remember at the end when it's like the reveal, I'm like, you have to look scared. You look like you're having fun, like you're about to laugh, and it just like, it like, fuck, I can't, like, god damn, like no one's gonna understand like how I want people to feel, you know, because he's not feeling like if it was me, I could do it, you know,
Yeah.
because I could act it, but you can't do it, you know. It takes filmmaking. It takes a lot of people to really get to do it. You know, you have to be around a lot of passionate people who aren't afraid, right, to be vulnerable and be like, yeah, let's do it. You know, like
Yeah. And like even after the camera thing happened, like I remember I still did a few things with my friend Chris and Rudy because like my friend Chris also made movies with my buddies, the twins, and they would have like these shootouts. Like every one of his movies is just nonstop people shooting at each other. Uh, and then when I like my first like real job, first significant job was working at AMC theaters, and there was a kid that worked there that was going to Columbia, and he asked me to be in one of his like short films, which was basically it was basically about a guy who like killed his fish, and so it was called Fishy. It was basically the Telltale Heart, you know, like the Edgar Allan
yeah,
Poe
hmm
story. Like he's feeling this regret, and like the very end of the film, it's just like, oh, you just fucking killed your fish. Like we're not gonna do anything to you. It's just a fish.
yeah.
But he had me be the starring role. It's like I don't think I'm a good actor at all. It's pretty hard to watch, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun to do, and I still have
The
it.
funny thing is, like, we did the same story for one of our films in high school. We shot a I wish I had that footage because it was a lot of fun making that in my friend's house. But we did the same thing with like blood effects and like pieces and stuff like that. I mean, that's the fun. I think that's why people like doing horror films is because you get to mess around with that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like you still feel passionate about it. There's no regrets, right? Because I mean, you can still do it. You just
Yeah,
gotta find
and
the people.
I've thought about like getting into documentary filmmaking because that's like
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite genres, and I like that. Like I mean I watch plenty of fictional films, like narrative based
Yeah.
films, but like there's something about documentaries and just like real stories and whatnot.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean,
yeah, I've thought
I
about
feel
it.
I feel like there's those passions still come out in some way. Like you
Hmm.
said, like if I can't do what I used to do, but I can still do it in a similar way. And like I was saying, like I still like doing photography. I shoot a lot of video stuff. I like doing even like when I just shoot my videos for not podcast, but for the stores or for like Hip Tiki, and I've done other stuff
Yeah, you're
too.
pretty creative
It's just
with it.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fun to do. I mean, you have to make the best of it when you're doing it by yourself. Even I mean, and not to go that far into this thing, but it's like I think that's why I think TikTok is a lot of fun
Hmm.
because it allows you to be able to do that sort of thing, be creative even with just yourself or your friends for a
Yeah.
very short amount of time. So I think moving into one of my other regrets, I have a bunch of them here too, but I think now this fits perfectly with mine is and with yours is not trying hard enough to be better in my early career.
Hmm.
Like I think when I was starting out as when I majored in 3D animation and media arts, and I think I always had like this kind of swagger of like I'm good, like I don't have to like I don't know, like I felt like I was good enough, but I never tried to be better. Like it's a very hard industry, and I mean I'm not even in it now, but I do regret like not pushing myself even further to stand out from like everybody because it is a very competitive industry. And
Uh-huh.
although whether I was better, if I had done so, I might have gotten tired of it anyway. Because even coming out here, I mean that's the whole reason I moved out to California. Me and my couple buddies, because we said we want to make video games, we want to make films. Like everyone has the same dreams. Like I want to work for Pixar. I want to work
City of
for.
Stars. Have you seen La La Land,
Hey,
by the way?
I like that movie. I like that movie. I mean, I think it hits the notes for the creatives who fucking do that shit.
I
It's
mean, I'm gonna
cheesy,
talk about it later when we get into
but
films, but
I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about that film when I passed it, but you got a good point. Um, but yeah, no, I feel like I could have upped my game to be more prepared for me moving out here. I think the first couple of years when I moved out here,
Mhm.
I didn't find any work. At least, I mean, I still to this day, I don't think I really found work in that like field, and I haven't really touched those skills, or for the most part, I haven't really done any 3D stuff since high school days. And I did some stuff for a while when I moved out here, but it was a lot harder, because you're fighting against like people who are like, they treat it as like live or die, and that's how I should have seen it. I think that's something that I have to keep reminding myself, like, if this is what you want, you have to treat it like this is your lifeline, you have to keep fighting for it. So I do regret, like, not, and again, like, obviously we can still learn that stuff, but I mean, I've lost all those years, like, who knows how my career or where my career would have been if I had made a better effort, in terms of that. Maybe I would have done it. But ultimately, I still found myself jaded with the industry because I'm like, if I did find work in the video game industry, it would have been boring because I'd be doing the same exact thing over and over again. And then I kind of shifted over to more like conceptual design. And even then, like that, I could have been a lot better. Like, I'm still not really good at digital design or like making stuff. Like, I feel like it's funny because you look at the early stuff that video game artists or game designers like Miyamoto, or what's the dude who made Metal Gear Solid? Kojima? Yeah. Like, you look at their early work and the stuff that they drew and created, it's like, oh my God, that's so basic. Like, I could have done, But now you look at the industry and it's like super competitive, right? Like, you see like the artwork for like games like God of War, it's like, holy shit. Like, that's the kind of level of stuff people are coming out with from school. Yeah. And I still can't even do that right now. Like, it would take me a while to kind of get into that groove to make that kind of art. So, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like that's a big regret because it's like I could have been at that level if I pushed myself, and I still can, but it's like it's kind of futile right now because I don't even know if that's what I want to do. But it's just that I could have been in that industry. So,
yeah. Sorry, I'm just internalizing all that. Yeah. I mean, because we're here. Like, me and Avedon have known each other since probably like 2014 is my guess, or around there. Maybe not that early. 2015, 2016.
Was it after I moved? No, I think it was before.
It was right around Destiny. So like whenever Destiny came out.
Yeah.
Point is, like, we're learning. As you guys are learning stuff about us right now, I feel like
we're learning stuff about each other. Yeah.
But my next one, I have a few here, but I'll say I regret how much time I spent in relationships. And this is something I really regret it. Like, I remember when I was like around 32 or 33, that's when I broke up with my last like long-term girlfriend. Like, my first relationship was 10 years, which is insane, right?
Yeah,
like crazy. From 16 to like 26. And then I broke up there, and then like literally like 3 months later, I started going out with the following girlfriend, which lasted like on and off for like 6 years. So it was literally like half of my life was dedicated to that. And so I really regret. Well, first of all, those are like pretty important years in your life, right? I mean, that's a long time. Sure. It's like 16 to 32. Hell yeah, it's a lot of years.
Yeah.
But
you're still learning who you are.
Yeah, learning who you are, like figuring out like what makes you happy, and just who you are as a person. I feel like I was way too dependent on other people in that, just kind of being in that relationship. That's just what ends up happening. So I always regret it. Those, unfortunately, like both of those relationships went on longer than they should have. And that, the first one was really fear-based. My family
fear of being alone, or what?
No, the first one was fear of like my family was so close to that person, so kind of letting them down, and it's like
it's
like they really loved her, so that kept me in it for long, like seeing how they would react to that
kind of a guilt
happening.
Thing, yeah.
And then the second one was just holding on to it when I shouldn't have. Like, I knew, it's like we've talked about this in past episodes, like where you think about the past and you look fondly on it. But I remember when I was in that moment and within that relationship, I remember not being happy.
Yeah.
But when you're out of it, you just kind of just recall when you were happy.
Of course, yeah.
And we were, in that second relationship, it really wasn't a fantastic like first year. And we were always kind of trying to get back to that. And so I knew I wasn't happy. So like now, even though, I spent a lot of time thinking about that, I am happy that did come to an end. And yeah, but I mean, even so, like, so yeah, you regret things and you think about the past a lot. But lately, and I've been wanting to mention this on previous episodes, there's instances, and I don't want to get like mythical here or
Specific. Oh,
whatnot,
yeah.
but like there's instances where like there's things in the universe that like repeat themselves in my life.
Yeah.
And so every time that happens, it's kind of a reminder of like, like before I never really believed in like predestiny or like things happen for a reason, things are meant to happen. But whenever
Yeah.
like these things in the world repeat themselves, it just kind of tells me that like I'm on the right path, even though it's not the path that I envisioned for my life.
Right.
And I'm not where I thought I would be or want to be necessarily
But it's a
at
path
35 years
forward,
old.
going forward.
Yeah, but it's like those moments that happens.
Yeah.
I feel like that's happening for a reason, which is crazy. Yeah.
That's cool. It's like you have to be aware of the signs.
Yeah, and sometimes you see him and you just kind of disregard him. It's like, oh, it's just, and maybe it is just a coincidence,
Yeah, yeah.
some ironic thing that happens. But yeah, it was weird. Like we were talking about Easy in one of our earlier episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and earlier in the day, I was thinking about when I was in grade school because I went to Catholic school. And we would sing, even though I don't like church really, we would sing all these songs that I remember.
Yeah.
And there was a song called On Eagle's Wings. And so I started
Yeah,
like
that's a
singing
song.
that. We'll
Fucking
raise you up. But then I watched an episode of Easy later that day, and they literally mentioned that song. And they like,
I
what
was
are
the
the
one with
odds?
the girl. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know which one it was, but like, what are the odds of that happening?
Yeah.
Like that particular song that I was thinking about and singing earlier in the day.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just, there's something to that, I think, anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny you mentioned that too. It's weird. I kind of envy that in a way because you've had actual long-term relationships. I don't think I've ever been in a relationship that's long enough to be like something solid. I think a lot of the stuff that I've been into has been kind of tumultuous.
Uh-huh.
Even, I mean, I've jumped into stuff where it was way too early. I moved in with somebody when we had just barely met, thinking it was just going to be a very fun thing when the other person was like, this is a very serious thing. It is a very serious thing,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's moving on to another one of my regrets is that I regret being very careless with other people's feelings.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of my early 20s to mid 20s,
Uh-huh.
I would say that I kind of treated it like, even though we just talked about how like I never really dated anybody in high school and stuff, in my 20s when I finally got to leave my household and move to California, I just kind of just went crazy, like in a way,
Yeah.
like I'm free, I'm gonna go like fuck around and just
For
see
sure.
whoever I want, and it's like not even really care about this sort of thing. Like I wasn't never necessarily trying to use people. I was kind of always like I'm just in it for fun, sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And in some way, I ended up like later on in my 20s, I ended up with somebody who I thought was really cool and wanted to be with, but I was still very much fighting the urge of or trying to be independent, like stay independent.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah, we can move in together, whatever, like
Yeah.
that'll be fine for whatever. It's nice to have someone I could like sleep with and do stuff with, but that's not gonna be serious. When it's like, dude, it's totally serious. Like,
Yeah.
and I regret like to lead people on that way because ultimately it hurt me too because I was just like these people wanted to love you and stuff like that and you kind of never really gave it, again, not giving it all the effort that it needed, or it's a typical thing that men go through where it's just like you always think there's something better,
Mm-hmm.
being free and there's always something better, like you could always have something better.
I
So
think
don't
that's for everybody. Like grass is
Yeah.
greener.
Yeah, exactly. So taking that too far to the point where it's like, well, you're getting older, and it's like, how long do you think you'll be able to carry this on?
Yeah.
So, I feel like I hope, and I've talked to a lot of these people too about it, and it's like I'm just like, I feel like I've gotten my karma back. Like I'm not very. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school too.
Mm-hmm.
I was an altar boy for the longest time. But I kind of believe now in that whole karma thing where it's like I'm I'm just kind of dealing with the karma that's coming back to me. Like whatever it is, whatever bad that I did to people, I am taking it in back. Like I'm fine with it because I put the bad juju out there, and I will deal with it as long as I have to deal with it until the universe says I'm straight, square, and I can have some normal again. So yeah, I mean, I think that's that and the feelings, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I kind of want to get into that a little bit too, because like, you know, as I was saying, how I was in those two long-term relationships, the second one especially, like that fell apart due to actions of my own. You know, like I wasn't faithful, and I never kind of came clean. Even after we had broken up, it took me a while to really come clean about that, like in the things that I did. You know, because like there was always like this part of me that was hoping that we could work it out eventually, but you know, like you that's impossible. Like to compartmentalize that kind of thing. Like when you have so much guilt, it really does weigh on you, and that's just not something you could just push to the side. But you know, like you were saying, like after that relationship ended, you know, because I was in a relationship, I never had that moment, you know, because they do say you have to have those moments where you just kind of like party it up and just kind of like enjoy your life before you settle down. And so I was already settled down within those years. So I don't necessarily know if it's like true that you have to get that stuff out of your system. But maybe so, because definitely it was, you know, towards the end of that relationship, I was thinking like, yeah, I never kind of put myself out there. And I want to try that. So like when that relationship ended, I really did put myself out there. I became a whore, basically, you know, like I was sleeping around and stuff. And, and throughout that time, it's like when that ended, it kind of unleashed this, and I'm talking about myself here, it unleashed this like monster upon the world where I just went around and slept with people and fucked with people's feelings and like just really had just a really, and you know, it's really up until recently, like I've had a really bad relationship with women in general and like how I've treated them. And, you know, I've went back and tried to, you know, apologized to people for the things I did, but just, there was just like so much pain within me where that resulted in treating people like shit because of how I felt about myself. So, I'm trying to be better in regards to that, but that's just like having that unhealthy relationship with people and just kind of being, emotionally manipulative and stuff like that. That's something I'm trying to get past.
For sure.
And, I'm just kind of like hoping that's behind me. Hoping I'm done with that, because I'm just like life could be so much easier. Yeah. Like you're just making it harder on yourself by doing those type of things. So
it's like they say, and I think now that we're talking about it, it's even more clear now. It's like you said, you hope that stuff is behind you, and I like to think that I am, because there's moments of clarity that I get where like I'm cool with it now, like I'm ready, I'm open to like have a relationship or whatever, but there's moments where it's like nah, maybe not yet, but it's like they say, you don't ever get rid of those demons, you just learn how to deal with them. You know, like you always have that with you. That's always like something a constant struggle you're gonna be fighting. I guess like it's sort of an addiction of sorts. Like I still like look back in it and I feel like I'm good to go, but then I'm like, well, if I can't find anybody, then might as well just keep doing what I was doing. You know, like fall back into a bad, like going back to like the routines that we talked about before, and going into a routine where we're just like, well, no one's serious about me or whatever. I could just, not that I want to go back and say like fuck with people's feelings, but I just mean like be very careless with all that sort of thing. But
and it's like easy to do that. It's easy to do that now, and I think it's like, I mean, yes, I'm 35, but I know how it is dating in this day and age, and it's not pretty. Like there's just so much out there, and it's not fun. It's like it's really hard to connect with people. But then again, like, a lot of that was, you know, like throughout that time, you know, I fucked with people, but I met a lot of amazing people. I just wasn't ready for that.
Right.
So that ended up me just hurting them. So
yeah, I think like, and during that time too, I was very arrogant and feeling like these people are lucky to know me or to
Uh-huh.
be around me, and like, and I always treated it like it's so stupid. Like again, this is part of me that I hate about myself is just to think of it like they were lucky to have me in their life or something like that. But now looking
Hmm.
back, it's like I'm the part of their life that they want to erase or forget, and
Hmm.
that's like that makes me feel like shit
Yeah.
because like I don't want to be that person or that horrible person that they have to like scrub from their life or just like kind of like really hate because I don't want to be hated, but at the same time I didn't make it easy not to be hated. So
Hmm.
I feel
Yeah.
like moving forward I don't want to be like that. Obviously, be
Uh-huh.
more open regardless of what it is. Like I'm not saying that I have to be very no, just like I said, be more open and be like, well, what people want. Because not everyone wants the same thing, but at the same time, you could be kind of upfront about what people want and be okay with that. Because I've been with people and they just said like, I wanted this, and then it switches to something else. And like I've
Hmm.
had that happen to me, where I'm very hesitant to fall for somebody, and then it happens, and then they kind of pull the rug out from under me, and I'm just like, fuck, and I'm in a terrible place. But then I'm just like, yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, it's
Like
terrible
with
like
you
to put that
people.
faith in it, and so that gets you to a point where
Yeah,
like you get into something and you don't want to like get your hopes up.
yeah, exactly.
It's
I
like,
mean,
but
that's
that,
what happens, right?
hmm
Every new relationship that comes up builds up a new wall because no
yeah.
one really wants to reveal themselves,
Hmm.
and then have that happen again. You keep just
Yeah.
growing another wall over it. So I don't want to wreck somebody's life like that,
Yeah, and
or
like a
even to
bunch.
think like I'm not even trying to think of myself as being like I was that bad,
Uh-huh.
because I'm not that important in anybody's life. So sadly,
Oh God.
but. I think that was my third one. I
Hmm.
mean, we did say we were gonna go through three, but if you want to continue on or move
I could hit
on,
on a few things. You know, I've mentioned on the podcast that I'm living back at home, and most of my life I've been here. Like I've moved out. I moved out last year with one of my ex coworkers, and that kind of went south because of me. Uh, and then I also moved out with my last girlfriend. So like I kind of regret not getting out of the house sooner because I feel like I've used my family. Like my family's super supportive, and I'm grateful for that.
yeah,
But I think part of me that kind of stunted my growth, or like just as a person, because I knew I
totally.
could rely on living here,
Hmm.
and so it's I'm 30. It's
It's a
but
crutch.
I mean right now I'm fine. Like I'm
Excuse me.
back here. Like this needed to happen, and I'm kind of like approaching it in a different way this time around. But there's definitely a part of me that feels like this is not like I should be on my own. I should learn how to
Yeah,
be fully independent, and that's something I've never really done. And then also school. Like I never took school seriously.
yeah,
I actually dropped out of high school after junior year. You know, I did get my GED eventually, and then I did go to a community college in the city for a few semesters. But I never took school seriously, and I think I'm a relatively smart person. People have told me I'm a smart person, so it's like
hmm
I part of me regrets that, but that's like I
I
was
love
saying
school.
earlier, that's still something that it's never too late to go back to
Yeah,
school, right?
yeah,
Like my
and
sister did it pretty late in her life, and now she's a teacher. So
that's
yeah.
awesome. I was gonna say that when you were talking about how you kind of depend on them, like I felt the first time I had to move back, and I used to lie and tell people, and this is like the truth coming out now, if anyone actually listens to this, but I used to lie to people when I moved back. I moved back to Chicago briefly in 2012, and that's after I broke up with my ex that I was living with at the time.
Uh-huh.
She had moved back home because she had moved from Florida to live with me here in California, which is just horrible that I had, got her to do that and then still have to go through all that. But eventually I couldn't make it out on my own after that when I was living out here. I was in a horrible, shitty job that I didn't like. I eventually lost that job, and then I just like, fuck it, like I don't care. But I could never
Mhm.
find another gig, so my parents were like, "We're not gonna support you out there." I was already like in my early 30s, and I
Mhm.
was still like, "You have to move back because we're not gonna support you." Like that's the only other option you have. but I regret. That's the thing too. Is like regret feeling like I could just depend on them. Like, oh, I could just fall back on them. Like it felt like shit having to do that, but it was great to do that. But I think one thing that I kind of wrote it down somewhere when that time happened. It's like you shouldn't live like you have a safety net. You should live like you don't have a safety net. Like this is it. You know, if you lose this, then you have nothing else. So you have to fucking fight for it. Don't be choosy. You know, whatever job you can get. If you really want to live out here, this is what you have to do, right? It doesn't matter what job you have. Like, because my parents used to tell me, like, just stop looking for the type of jobs you want. Just find a job. If you really want to stay, like, fucking work at McDonald's. It doesn't matter. But I was, like, too proud. Like, I don't want to work at those spots. So, like, well, the alternative is you're moving back. You know? And so one of my biggest fears was, like, again, when I came out here the second time, because I only stayed out there. I was only planning to stay out there for, like, a year, you know, build up my money, which I was doing until I was in a car accident. And sent me back big time for another year because I had to buy another car. I had gone through 3 cars during that time, which sucked. But eventually I said I can't. Like I want to go back because that's where everything is for me. And I think we talked about it too. It's like at the time it's like Chicago's great, but it's just like very hard to find the same type of work. And I think that's why everyone goes to California. Sure. But I was just like, you cannot let this happen again. and then this happened. Not only this COVID, but I got laid off from my last job in 2018, and I was like, fuck, like what am I gonna do? Like obviously just find work. I was working independently for a while, but it was really tough, and I was like, I really hope I don't have to move back. And it just came close to that. And I don't believe in anything, but I'm just so happy that I did find something but it's still hard, you know. It's like I'm in my late 30s too, and it's like, how long is this gonna continue, right? It's like we're not living the same lives our parents lived, you know. Like they had a house and a family by their like 30s, you know. And it's like I don't have anything. I barely even have a savings, so it's like I'm fucked no matter what. Like I told my parents, like we're gonna be bums no matter what.
And it's like eventually the body's gonna break down, you know. Like especially like I was started doing the Uber thing. I'm like I can only do it for so long. Like eventually, you know, you're not going to be able to work, but, you know.
Yeah, so it's like, I try to make my family feel okay about the fact that, like, don't worry about us, but it's like, I know, my life's fucked. It's like, I mean, I don't know, like, it'd be nice to find somebody and settle down, but it's just like, I feel like it's really hard for a lot of people, but that was a regret where I didn't treat it, like, seriously, like, this is, you know, this is it. Like, you don't have another shot. And like, again, if I had to move back, obviously I would have made the best of it. I love Chicago. It's not the worst thing, but obviously I still feel that shame of being how old, no money, and having to move back with the family.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're there. A lot of people there. You're there. So it's like, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, it's like I said, like, and I'm sure you're grateful as well. It's just nice to have a family, like, who, you do have that safety net. And yeah, so like I've put some in the past. I put some blame on that, like feeling like that's a crutch that has stunted me. But it's like I don't want to put blame there. Like it's ultimately it's on me.
You can't blame them for that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're supporting you as best as they can. You know, and I mean I've met people who don't have that, and it's like. It's terrible. Like, I mean, even then, like, you know, with my brother, you know, like he's had a lot of troubles with his drug use and stuff like that. And it's like, he can't come back, you know, it's regardless of how shaky it is, but he's still kind of okay with the family. He's still not allowed to be back because you never know. So, yeah. So I think we're cool to move on to the, really quick. I mean, do you have any other serious ones? Because I want to go through just a few more that I'm not even gonna.
Go through yours. I went.
They're really quick and they're just kind of self-explanatory.
Sure.
It's actually pretty sad, but I do regret. I wish I spent more time learning more about my family, and not only just my parents and stuff like that. My grandfather, my grandmother. My grandmother's still around. My grandfather. I wish I spent more time with him. That's a regret that everyone has, like just spending time with family. But
yeah,
I hate to say it, but like, not that my cousins would listen, but I was his favorite, yet I didn't know him as well as I wanted to. And then we were kindred spirits because he was an artist too. He was a sculptor, and I was an artist, and he always praised my work. So I feel like I really wish I got to know more. It's like towards the end of my aunt's life, who I consider my mom, so I kind of interchangeably say she's my mom. She passed away a year ago, but back when I had moved back, that one time, I started filming her like a documentary sort of thing, where it's like, tell me about your life. I want to know everything. I want to keep it. I don't even know where that footage is, but I wanted just to learn everything about them as much as I could, because I'm like, I don't know when they'll ever be able to tell me their stories. Yeah. So I wish I could have spent more time learning about them. And then the other one was two more. I wish I had made more friends, kind of the same thing in high school. Like, I wish I created more stronger bonds and relationships with, like, just even male friends, just to have a core group of people.
For sure.
Like, I still have, like, one or two of them, but we're not, like, I see those films and they're, like, good buddies and, like, going on adventures or just stupid buddy comedies. And it's like, damn, I really wish I had a buddy that I could do shit like that. And I kind of consider you that way, too, because of the stuff that we've barely known each other, like, that long, but spending time with you when we were like in San Francisco and just going out and doing shit, it started to feel like that. So I wish I had more of that though, and I wish I had built more relationships with other people during all my years growing up. So I don't really have a lot of close friends anymore, so. And then lastly, I wish I didn't spend so much fucking money on toys and collectibles, because my room used to look like a fucking toy store. Back home, I was like the typical, or not the typical, what do you call it, the cliche nerd living in his parents' basement with like all of the toys and stuff like that. And I love my toys and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's like I really wish I had not spent money on that stuff and just kind of spent money traveling. I could still travel, but I would have liked to have traveled more when I was younger, and I did do some traveling, but I wish there's so much money in those collectibles that I could have fucking bought a car and done other stuff. And luckily, they've saved my ass a couple of times to pay rent, but it sucks that you'd have to use that, for rent when it comes and goes, and you lose a collectible that's, priceless in a way. But
at least the investment paid off to get on your feet for a bit, right? To tide you over.
Stuff that I sell, so it's kind of good.
And like I meant to go, like, going back to what you were saying about your grandparent or your grandfather. I've because I've been the type of person who hasn't shown enough interest in my parents and like their upbringing and like where they come from and stuff like that. And I've drunk, like, a few months ago, I drunkenly like texted my mom saying like, kind of like back to the documentary thing. I would like to sit down and like, because they're not going to be around forever, right?
Yeah.
Sit down with them and record a podcast and kind of like, have these deep conversations with them, and then also learn more about their lives and, their dreams and stuff like that. So that's something I want to do before it's too late.
Yeah, man. You never know. Especially the way things are going nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh, one last. I kind of regret fucking getting surgery on my fucking nose.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this, but I had issues. It wasn't even. Looking back now, I'd rather live with the problems that I had back then than the ones I have now. But I had a deviated septum. I had an elongated uvula, and I had all that stuff. The uvula was shortened. I had my deviated septum fixed, and then I got wrecked. Had emergency surgery, and Jason knows this. I had already told him. Fucked up my nose. Started bleeding. Wouldn't stop bleeding. And then I got a hole in my nose now, and it's very uncomfortable. I have to do a lot of maintenance. It's a pain in the ass. Now I feel much more vulnerable. It's a whole different feeling vulnerable. Not that I used to get in bar fights, but I was very confrontational in my early 20s and my mid 20s. Like I wouldn't back down from a fight. Now I'm very afraid to get into a fight because I don't want anybody to hit me in the face. And so it's one. Not that I say like, this thing's ruined my life because I can't get into fights, but I'm just saying like it's just kind of rough. So I wish I never got that done. But I do sleep better. I don't have sleep apnea anymore, but I kind of wish I didn't do it, or I wish I went to a better doctor. Now I could still probably fix it, but it's gonna take a lot of money. But that's still a regret. So before we continue on with the podcast, we don't want to go too far or too long with this. We do want to kind of touch on some of the films that you would regret that are some of our favorite films, because we did make a list about that, because we do want to tie it into entertainment. And did you get a list of things or no?
Yeah, I have a few things.
Cool.
Yeah, so I mean, you know how I dropped that little City of Stars soundbite earlier when you were
Yeah,
talking
you
about
did.
moving out to LA. La La Land was a big one, which is a dark one, just like how we had talked about on replay value, where
Right.
I kind of like had the tendency of listening to sad music that makes me more sad.
Yeah, yeah.
La La Land was
Melancholic.
that for
Yeah.
me. Like if you've seen La La Land, spoilers, like the whole epilogue of the film is like they don't end up together, but it's kind of like Casablanca in a way, and I'm sure you're going to mention Casablanca, and I'm sorry for that.
No, it's fine.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of like the same. I mean, it's different in a way, but it's two people that like had this dream, and that dream consisted of them not ending up together, but still accomplishing that.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole section in the epilogue where it shows what life would have been like if they did end up together, and kind of
Right.
like how he would have had to minimize his dream so that she could be a movie star.
Yeah.
Uh, so whenever I was in a dark place, I would watch that film and think about my past relationship and like like that relationship ended, and like I said, I'm happy it did. And she wanted a family, and I wasn't ready for it at the time, and now
Right.
she has all that stuff. So like, I don't like thinking back on that too much. Sometimes you just do, just like life could have played out a different way.
Right.
And so like luckily I'm at a point now like where even though I do think on the past and like regret that stuff, I'm more or less happy like with where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I think things turned out the way they should have turned out at this point in life.
Yeah.
Like I said. But yeah, La La Land, and then
No, it's really
the
quick because we're
yeah,
talking
go
about
ahead.
La La Land. I was just say like, yeah, I think it's very universal in that sense because a lot of people who are in relationships go through that. But I think I don't know in the beginning when you mentioned it, I thought you were gonna make fun of it, but for me, it's like it hits close because they're both artistic people, right? They're both
Yeah.
creative people. So I think they're both coming out. I'm not saying that I came out here to make my dream come true or
Yeah.
anything like that, but it's true. I mean, like I came out here because I did want to work in the industries that I've had an interest in, but
Hmm.
like you said, I've been in the same thing too, where I was in a relationship with the person that I lived with, who had the same kind of dream of like having a family and whatnot, and they have that now. And of course, I feel very melancholic and sad about it, but at the same time, I'm just like, no, well, it wasn't as much as I feel like I'd want that. I feel like I miss more just being with someone than actually having that
Uh-huh.
specifically with that person. So I'm like, I'm happy they have that with who they really want to be with versus me wanting that just because I want to be with somebody and I'm
Exactly.
just giving in to what they want.
Yeah,
So
and it's like that person wanted it and now they have it, and I should feel happy for them, and I wasn't
yeah,
ready for that. But yeah, I mean, lately I have been thinking a lot about just that in general of wanting a family, just like like getting older here, and like
yeah, yeah,
I don't want to do this dating thing forever. Like it seems nice to be able to settle down and just like
mm,
have that to come home to.
for sure.
But then again, there is like throughout my life, I have like there's a monotony. I'm sorry. There's a
No, no.
monotony in like relationships. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I, I don't think I've ever gotten to that where I could figure out how to make that work long term, and that's
right.
something that I hope I can figure out. But yeah, and then like just to rattle a few off, the
Yeah, go ahead.
Fountain, uh,
Mm,
the Fountain by Darren Aronofsky.
one of my favorite
That's
films.
that's a movie about someone who loses somebody, uh, but there's regret there where he's not. He was too. He
Where he
was
spends
too.
more time trying to save the person than actually
Yeah,
spending time with the
he's
person.
like being
Yeah,
stubborn, not willing to let the person go. Yeah, and then uh, yeah, that's all I really have for that.
yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say like other stuff like Lost in Translation is one of the favorite films where he kind of, regrets the life maybe that he used to have with Bill Murray, a Sofia Coppola film, which is a very popular film.
Mhm.
A lot of Life Aquatic. I mean, like a lot of Wes Anderson films deal with a regret, like Life Aquatic, which is one of my favorite films. Just like the life that he's led and not being really there for everybody. Big
Mhm.
Fish, which is a Tim Burton film,
Yeah.
I thought about because it's the same thing. It's like dealing with like you don't really know your parents and getting to know them through the stories of everybody else who knew your parents. I think is very, very, very cool in that sense. And just Crouching Tiger is another one because it deals with a lot of regret, like
I
these
love
two
that film.
people who
I
always
love
loved
it.
each other, but they never really got to do anything about it because obviously the one person was with the guy's brother, but they
Yeah.
had this love, and they never really got to do anything about it because the guy ends up dying. Not
It's like
spoiler.
out of
It's a very old
respect and
film.
out of honor. Yeah.
Yeah, which is yeah, I love that film so much. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for those films. I mean, I had other stuff like Up in the Air and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah. I had Requiem for a Dream on there, but like thinking on it, I mean, yeah, I do love that film. I for me
Yeah,
with that film in particular, it's like maybe the mother daughter. I mean, the son mother aspect
hmm
to it. There's a scene in
right.
that film where it's like she's clearly crying out to help. That she just wants him to like be there and spend
Yeah,
time with her, make time
yeah,
with her within his life, and
right,
just like them having that disconnect. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about like not
right,
not learning more about my parents, and like I don't
right.
want to regret not knowing them more.
To finish on a higher note, are any things you don't regret? I don't regret moving out to LA. I don't regret coming back to LA even after moving back. Um, and I don't regret choosing the path that I've chosen. Like I probably wish I could have been a little more specialized. Maybe now I'm starting to learn that I really enjoy more architectural design and all that stuff. I didn't realize how good it was that I feel like I could have. That's a avenue that I could have taken that it would have been might have been more secure. But there's still time to do any of that, do other stuff, and I don't regret keeping this dog with me because he's kept me sane. So
Well, mine are going to be a little bit darker, but I mean, not really. But I mean, obviously, I had those regrets as far as past relationships, but
yeah.
in a way, I don't regret those things happening because like
That's how
after
you
that
learn.
is when I got like my job at Venmo like a year
Mhm.
later. And like I met so many amazing people since then, and just
Yeah.
the idea that I wouldn't have met the people that I've met like the past year or two, which I've
hmm
become close to a few of them, uh, that would suck not having ever known those people. So in a way, I don't regret that. I like how that played out. And I have a kid. I don't regret having a kid. To be honest, and I know it might make me sound shitty. There was resentment there. It's not something that was necessarily planned, and I kind of battled with it. But I know it's a good thing that was brought to my life, and I mean, there's this whole aspect where. Uh,
Sometimes that stuff has to happen to straighten you out.
Yeah, and it's like, well, no, just in regards to that, like just how I've mentioned, like people have told me I'm smart, and I kind of don't believe them, even though I think I'm relatively smart. But like when this was happening, like people saying you're going to be a good father and whatnot, and like in full honesty, full disclosure, like I haven't been there as much as I've wanted to with my
Yeah.
daughter, because I've dealt with all these like alcohol and drug abuse, and so that really has put that really has messed up like how I want to be for her. So I don't know what I was getting at with that, but it's like I'm
But
happy
you
it
still have time to
happened.
fix all of that.
Yeah, I
I
have
mean, there's
time to
still
fix
plenty of
all that,
time for
and
you to do that. Yeah, you're
yeah,
aware of it, so you're gonna fix it. I mean, not
yeah,
fix it, but you're gonna change course.
yeah, and it sucks that everything that's happening, that what's going on in the world right now, because that means I'm not able to see her right now, which really sucks. And
Right. Yeah.
she's
That's
learning.
quarantine won't last forever.
What happened?
The quarantine won't last forever.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Just to kind of get a little philosophical there, like for me, I've had those people who tell me that I'm a good person, but I'm sorry. I've like had those people that tell me I'm a good person, but I'm beginning to realize like you're not what you think. And like we're gonna talk about BoJack Horseman on the morning show and different things that I've watched, but
Yeah.
I've realized that like all you really are is like the things that you do, the actions that you
Right. The
take,
action. Yeah.
and none of that like anything that you internalize and think you should do better, like that doesn't really matter. Just the only thing that matters is like what you do and what you put out there, like physically and verbally.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah.
Cool. That's a good way to end it. I feel like that's a really good way to end it. This podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to our regrets, and not everything is bad. We learn from these things. I feel so self-helpy like right now. But yeah, I mean, like you only learn from your past mistakes, and you obviously, like you were just talking about, we're gonna move forward positively and learn from those things. And yeah, thanks for everyone for listening.
It felt good getting to know you more a little bit.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, it's things that we didn't really talk about it.
Yeah,
and we didn't discuss beforehand, so we were kind of learning as everyone else is listening.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I think the last thing I was going to mention is oh man, my phone won't start up anymore because it's dead, just like my laptop's about to die. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, MY WAWD. You could also send an email at mywawd@gmail.com. And like I said, follow along on iTunes or anything else. Please write us or anything like that. I'm @on_arcade on Instagram, and obviously through Hip Arcade. Hip Arcade is the one who produces this podcast. And then of course you can follow Jason at Boy Decide.
Yep.
Thanks for listening as always. Thanks for, keep playing, keep watching, keep doing what you do. Just do more of it.
Bye guys.
Okay, did I say I was at Arcade? I think I did, right? Shit, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. I'm just like spewing shit out.
Add that to the end of the episode.
Yeah.